All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Kinesio Outdoors podcast, where my goal is to educate you on how to safely enjoy exercise indoors and outdoors, inspire you to experience life outside, and encourage you to live a more active life closer to nature. Today on the podcast, I have Jason Grosjacques. Thanks, Jason, for taking the time out of your day to have this conversation with me. How are you today?
Yes, man. Not bad at all, man. How you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. Wife and kid are away. That's been good and bad. I get
Yeah.
to do whatever I want whenever I want, but bad because so it'd be nice if they were here.
Most definitely.
So I want to get into who you are, what your job is, story of how you got here in life, and then how you got onto this
hmm
podcast. You can kind of, as part of the journey, because we know each other for a few years, you can kind of mention how we met guiding. Um,
Yeah.
I know you, the listeners don't know you, so go ahead and give us a story. Take 5 to 10 minutes, going as deep as you want to go, and let's hear it. Who's Jason
All right.
Grosjacques?
All right. So, kind of started out, like my whole addiction with hunting and fishing and all this stuff, just basically the outdoors kind of stemmed from in high school, I was a big time athlete. Like that was my bread and butter. It's what I liked doing. It's what I looked forward to. Like I was a top athlete in the area and sadly, I didn't take my schooling serious enough during that time frame. Just kind of did enough to skate by, and then after high school, I figured I was gonna, I'll just walk on at the local college here, go play some basketball, and was thinking about getting a degree in diesel mechanics. That's kind of what I was looking at, and we have a local trailer factory here that actually it pays pretty good for like just walking on, something I could do for the summer to make some money while I waited for school to start, and I uh I ended up kind of hanging around like right out of high school, like friends, we all kind of separated, started doing our own things. I kind of started hanging around the wrong people, started partying, kind of fell off a bit, got into got into drugs, those kind of things, and ended up staying there. Never ended up enrolling in college, never ended up doing that kind of stuff. And just I was like, like I've always been a hard worker, so even in work I progressed up pretty quickly and started making money. And I was like, this ain't bad. I could definitely do this. And
Let me
just
cut you off real quick.
yeah.
I've been in college for 9 years. I make $22,000 a year. I guarantee you make more money than that. I guarantee it. I've been in college for 9 years. So there's nothing wrong with taking that route. But it sounds like you kind of had some other goals. However, it's not a bad route. So I just want people to know you don't have to go to college. I've been in college for 9 years. I make $0. I totally mooch off of my wife. You don't do that. So
Yeah.
sorry to interrupt.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you're
you
all good,
didn't end
man.
up going to college. You're progressing with your trailer job. Go ahead.
Progressing with the job, and then I got into some harder stuff, and I basically lost all sight of that. I ended up stepping down from the position I was working up towards, and kind of went on a full down spiral from there. Ended up uh, dating my son's mom, and kind of met her from basically. I was selling drugs at the time. That's that like no other way to put it, and she was someone that got him from me, and we started dating and partying and doing all that kind of stuff. And then fast forward a couple years, full blown into my addiction, and she ends up pregnant. And it was like, okay, like she ended up pregnant. When that was the case, I had an apartment in the town I live here, and we lived in the living room. The bedroom had about 25 marijuana plants in it, and the two basement, like my basement was the same size as the upstairs, was split off into two. I had basically a full grow operation going. I had about 70, 75-ish plants. And I was like, okay, like that was a real, like, I'm having a kid now. Like, whoa. I ended up within a couple months there. I sold off all my plants, sold off all my lights, all my stuff right there. Then just kind of didn't, I was like, I got to get clean. I got to get my life figured out. And over the next couple months, started kind of doing that. It was a little rocky in there, but then I started fishing again. I hadn't fished much since I was kind of in high school, and that's kind of what really got me back into it. And I'd bought a bow within that time frame from somebody, and I'd never archery hunted. Actually, at that point, I'd taken about a 3-year hiatus from even hunting, and my guy I was hanging out with and fishing with and stuff, he was actually a guy kind of go partner in the whole operation I had going on. He's like, "Hey, dude, you should try archery hunting." I was like, "Yeah, I've never really thought about that. I didn't put in for tags this year, but so in Oregon at that time was full state was over the counter, you know." I was like, "Okay, cool. I can just buy an over the counter archery tag," and did that, and that's basically where the whole my addiction in that started. I
So how
got
many
my
years ago was that?
that was so my son's 7, so that was 7 years ago
Okay,
because it was
sweet.
that fall that he was born. That was my first year archery hunting,
Okay,
and
sweet.
I I freaking dude, it's got me hooked now. It's yeah, we had hunted around the local area mainly, and got into a lot of elk. Didn't really know what I was doing archery style. I mean, like I said, I'd hunted before, but I was never like serious. I was the kind of like my dad would drop me off on a little road, or I'd walk a little cat road that was closed, and kind of didn't really know what I was doing. And I mean, got into some elk and had some pretty good hunting action for not knowing it. And I was like, okay, like I really want to get good at this, and I need to kind of figure this out. And killed a few animals from there, a couple cow elk. Never, sadly, I mean, that first year actually, opening day. I'm sorry, I'm kind of back and forth, but that opening day of my first year, went out to a spot that I had hunted previously with my father, and that opening day morning, no success. That evening though, went out down a little cat road and actually ended up shooting a bull at about 25 yards, stuck it in the shoulder blade sadly, and it turned whirled. When it ran off, I saw I had, I don't know, probably 28 inches of arrow sticking out, and I mean,
28 out
could
of
have been a
30
little.
inches.
Yeah, dude. And funny thing is, like, I went to Walmart, bought some like 400 or 500 spine arrows, had no idea, bought some 100 grain
Mhm.
broadheads. So running super light, super like flimsy arrow. Like, I didn't know what I was doing, but I mean,
So real quick, we'll just tuck into that. So for those that you don't know Jason, Jason's 6'4", 220, something
I,
like that.
I'm a, I'm about 230, 235 right now.
Okay,
I've
Jason's 6'4", 235. His draw length is 30 inches, 31 inches.
30 and a half,
Okay,
31,
so
about 31.
for him to be shooting a 400 to 500 spine arrow, he is like 2 to 3 spines under spined.
Yeah,
So
beyond.
definitely not the greatest, but that's all right. So just wanted to explain that, like you saying that, and everybody knows, but essentially when he's under spine, the arrow's too weak.
Yeah.
So the bow has too much energy and the arrow's not flying straight, so it's pretty floppy. So
No,
anyways, just
I
wanted
think back
to
to, I
chime in
think
there real
back
quick.
You're all good. Yeah, I think back to watching. I was shooting hay bales out of my parents' house, like practicing before season with those. I remember
Hmm.
watching them. They'd come out, and you'd see that flex, and they would stick. And they'd stick at angle. Like it was not good. I had no idea what I was doing. Yes, I mean, shot that bull, and I obviously never recovered it. Never found the arrow. Probably broadhead's probably still stuck in the scapula. But I mean,
Hmm.
that bull had no issue. I guarantee it. Like it went on and it lived a good life till someone else probably got it. But yeah, yeah. After that, got into some really good elk in some other areas, some neighboring units from like Mount Emily unit here. He hunted across from that, across the freeway in Starkey. There are a lot of good bulls in there as well. Got into
Hmm.
a lot of good elk, a lot of good rut action. And then the next year after that, it's like, man, that was fun, but I put in for some tags that I didn't expect. I put in for some rifle tags, and I was like, hey, if I don't succeed, I'll go, I'll go rifle hunt one and archery hunt another. Another. I put in for Deso rifle bull and Deso rifle elk. I was like, the odds of drawing them with 0 preference points, I mean, probably not going to happen. I drew both, and I was like, well, I guess I'm not archery hunting at all this year. So I called for some buddies, did a lot of that, and same thing. Got into a lot of good action. That's where I really started focusing on wanting to learn how to call elk, because I learned like how important that is if you want to archery hunt. Like you got
Hmm.
guys, don't get me wrong, they're just absolute killers. That Stock and Ryan Lampers, Brian Barney, those guys, they don't call hardly at all. They just stalk. But
Yeah.
I love the calling aspect, man, and started learning that. Called some elk in for some buddies, and then that second year, that was my first year ever doing a backpack hunt. That same kid, he just hit me up. It was the third week of season. So second to last week of season, and he's like, "Hey, dude, let's go hunt the eagle caps." It's like, dude, that'd be freaking sweet. It's like I don't have that.
Yeah.
I don't have any. I went to Walmart, bought a freaking 30-degree sleeping bag, way too heavy, and he borrowed my dad's pack because I had just a small
Hmm.
little pack. I borrowed his horn hunter pack and just went in with about, I don't know, 70 pounds of gear on my back for 2 days. But the crazy thing is, like, we got into a lot of elk. Like we hiked in about 4 miles in. This hunt's actually on YouTube. It's not on my channel. It's on his channel. But we got into some bugling bulls about 4.5 miles in. Just came into a rut fest, man. It must have been some really hot cows in there. And
Hmm.
we ended up backing out, set up camp that next morning. We hiked around, kind of just chased elk, not knowing what we're doing, like just almost not knowing which one to go to,
Uh-huh.
all over the place. And then about midday, I think 1, 2 o'clock, I ended up calling a bull into him, and he missed it at. I think he shot for like 35, but it's probably like more like 20, 25.
Hmm.
Threw it over its back, and then bull took off and whirled around and kind of like looked back, and he shot another one at it and missed again. And that was, we ended up hiking out with our freaking tail between our legs, just beat down. It was awesome. It was,
Yeah,
and
that's
ever
one of those
since then,
things
man, I
where, like,
just,
that stinks. We just got our butt kicked, and then you're like, I want to go back tomorrow.
we literally we literally all we could talk about throughout that week was going back in there.
Hmm.
And it's how much I love hunting. I feel like an a-hole. My buddy luckily understands. One of my good buddies I walked with on graduation, his bachelor party was the next week and the last day of season. And I'm like, I love you, dude, and I will be at your wedding, but I'm sorry. Like, it's the last weekend of September. I'm hiking back in to help, trying to help my buddy call a bull,
That's
and
funny.
called 2 bulls in on that trip to him. And as a caller, you can only do so much. He kind of got caught with his pants down on the first bull. Good, and it was we're about 7 miles in on that one. He ended up trying to, in the Eagle Caps, real steep, real glacier. You get those rocky runoffs where the all the avalanche chutes and stuff. He tried crossing this avalanche chute to get to the other side before the bull. And when he came up the other side, he was about 15 yards from a pretty good 6 point, probably like 286 points, staring him in the face, took off. And then we hiked up over a pass in there, and it's a good thing we didn't kill this next bull. I bugle off the top, it's hot as can be. So, September in Oregon, hot as can be, bugle off the top midday. That thing responds back, and I was like, oh dang. And we sat there and decided, well, should we do this? Like, and my buddy, I was like, it's your tag, man. Like, if you want to try and do this, let's do it. And we sat down and had lunch while we waited, and got up and moved down the hill after eating some ramen. And this bull basically came in the direction we didn't think it was going to come in, and caught him at about same thing, like 10 yards, and he couldn't make a move. Tried making a move, and when he did, it just blew out of there. And good thing we did. Like I said, we're about 8, 9 miles in at this point, and we would have been in over our heads, man. It was
Sure.
we were a little more rambunctious. It was a good time, but ever since then, man, I've kind of lost people that want to do that backpack hunting with me, and I mean, it's my favorite enjoyment. I might be a little less successful, get into a little less elk for the most part of it, but it's addictive. It's being in beautiful country like that it's hard to beat, man.
Yeah, I know. I've never done a backpack hunt. I've backpack scouted a few times, and every time I went into a place, it was just really low deer densities. So I was like, why would I hunt here? We're not even
It,
seeing any
it
bucks.
yeah.
So
It
that was kind of
that's
lame.
that's how a lot of it really is in the backcountry. Like,
Yeah.
you can get into some of the areas that animals do act a little more, natural than when you're around highly populated, highly hunted, like pressured areas. But for the most part, it's a lot of days of, dude, not hardly see anything. But
Yep.
I think a lot of it's the adventure of it, that adventure hunting, kind of bow hiking
Yeah.
for a lot of it
Yeah,
is.
exactly.
But I think, hey, you're
So
gonna get your feet wet the next couple weeks, right, on the first backpack hunt.
yeah, I think that's what we're gonna do, right?
I think that's what we're thinking, man. It'll be fun. It's a good time.
Yeah, let's wrap around to that. I want to get into
Most
before we
definitely.
get there. I want to get into kind of how you and I linked up a little bit. So
Mm-hmm.
you were recruited to be a hunting
Yep.
guide,
Yeah.
and kind of tell people how you got recruited, and then I want to get into how you and I became pretty good buddies because that was a weird circumstance that we just
Yeah.
made the best of and
Yeah.
got a client a bull and other client, oh well, but
Good old
and
down
before we
back.
get there, let's talk about how you were recruited first, because I don't think a lot of people are recruited to be hunting guides. So
Yeah. So it's
want to
kind of
dive into
funny, like kind of funny how that worked out because like I'd reached out to a local outfitter here
that.
and
Hmm.
in the area and talked to them. They're a pretty popular outfit. They have got like Chad Mendez. I don't know
Yeah,
if you know who he is. Yeah, Chad Mendez. He hunts with them
yeah,
every year.
UFC.
Yep, Macy Barber, same thing. She cow hunted with them, I think, last year as well. Probably met through Chad, but they're a pretty big outfit in the area, mainly private land stuff. They got a lot of private land. But I reached out to them about wanting to I'm trying to get into this. And he asked if I had any experience. Told him no. He's like, hey, well, I can't really. I'm not going to pay you and bring you out to manage clients and guide clients if you've never actually been in this position. We're a pretty legit outfit. He's like, feel free to try to come out for a week or a weekend and just hang out. I might be able to put you with a guide and you can kind of pick their brain, maybe get some field time, but I'm not really an option. And I was like, oh dang, like this, I don't know if this is something that might happen. And well, I used to be pretty uh used to have a pretty good presence on social media with what I would post, like with my outdoor content and that kind of stuff, YouTube channel. And I had a guy follow me, buddy Cody. You met Cody, I believe.
I don't think I met Cody, but
No,
I
yes,
know who.
you did not. Cody was out east the whole time. And that's where they
Yeah, I
got me,
never
man.
met him.
He asked, he's like, hey man, you see like doing a lot of hunting, like being outdoors. Have you ever thought about being a guide? I was like, yeah, dude, like that's kind of been like a dream, like for the longest time ever. Like it's one of those things you don't know how to, how am I going to make this happen? And he's like, well, dude, he's like, if you're serious about it, I'll link you up with the outfitter I work for. You can talk to him a little bit, but we're hiring for this next season. We're trying to get some guys to help guide out east with me because he was the only guy out east. And I was like, cool, yeah, that'd be sweet. And the outfitter ended up contacting me and got a hold of me. And he's like, yeah, man, we're looking to hire. You seem pretty passionate about the outdoors. It's something that we really look for here, people that are super passionate as much as we are. And he's like, if you're serious, meet us at the expo in the next couple months and we'll go from there. So drove out to the expo and it was fun. Drove out the very brief conversation. We could have had it over the phone, but it's just like, yeah, I think it was an initiative. Like, am I serious?
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
if I'm serious about doing it, like, yeah, I'll make the effort to go out there. So me, my dad, and my uncle actually made a trip out of it, went out there and ended up meeting up with them. And basically, he's like, "Yeah, dude, he's like, we're gonna start things off August 1st. If you're legit, man, we'll stay in contact throughout this time. This is in February, so he's like, if you're
Mhm.
legit, I'll see you August 1st, man." And every couple months, like he'd hit me up in between there to see if I'm still serious, if I'm still doing it. Yeah, this is it. Then round comes August 1st, and I'm freaking loaded up driving. I want to say I think it's like 6-7 hours from where I
Yeah.
live all the way across to the other side of the state. And yeah, pull into his place, and man, that was a start of some meeting some pretty great people. Honestly, I still talk to Cody. I talk to Brett occasionally. I can't get a hold of him recently.
I
He's
can't
big
either.
league.
I
He's
think
a
he got a
big
new
league guy,
number.
man. He's a
Yeah,
big league.
he's a big deal. He works for Eastman's.
Yeah, he's big leagues now.
Yeah, he
And
doesn't
then
talk to us. He talks to Barney.
yeah, that's it. Barney and freaking Dan Picard. I actually had Dan Picard message me back today because they're doing a podcast. He's like, ask me anything you want. I was like, how slick is Brett behind the camera, man?
Little dude, does he know we taught him some of those camera tricks because he was not getting it
Right?
when we had him.
I was like, I'm glad you guys finally got him out of those Irish setters, dude.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then me and Brett spent the majority of the time with Brett that first month. Him and I just kind of hanging out, getting to know each other, hit it off freaking great. and I got hired to be on the east side. That was my calling card, to
Yeah.
come help hunt on the east side. Then we did the antelope hunt, all that kind of stuff. That was awesome. That was down in Lakeview, actually. That was the first thing. That was way south, down in the desert by the California border. Come back and took a week off, and then straight over to the coast. And that's where, lo and behold, that's where our journey kind of started together. We met, and I didn't know that you were going to be part of any of it, any of that kind of stuff. He hadn't mentioned anything to me, that he had someone else, another guy that he had that was coming to help out. And I was like, well, this is pretty cool. And man, who would have known that me, you, and Brett would have been the old three amigos over there, just running through the jungle.
Yeah, that was pretty funny. I think the reason that Mike didn't mention it is because I volunteered it. So you were paid, you were headhunted.
Yeah.
I was like, I've never hunted Oregon. I want to learn how to hunt Oregon. I don't even really know how to hunt elk. I've been on one elk hunt before that. So I was like, why not just be a guide?
Yeah.
Like, school doesn't start for me at Oregon State until the third week of September. I can maybe convince my wife to just let me go run around in the forest for a month. And I somehow did it. I somehow convinced her.
Yeah.
So then I had to call this guide. And I'm like, hey, I know you're local, blah, blah, blah. I want to come help you out. I want to work for you. I was like, I'll be a packer, I'll cook, whatever you need. I'll do something. So then he's like, oh, okay, it sounds like you're interested. I don't want to be a jerk, but have you ever killed anything? And here I am talking about how hardworking I am, all these things, and I'm trying to be a hunting something, right?
Yeah.
So then I started listing my credentials as he's guided like 400 bulls across like New Mexico, Arizona, Montana.
Yeah,
like
done some of the big
Oregon,
things.
Washington.
Yeah.
Right? So here I am like bragging, quote unquote bragging to this outfitter. And I'm like, oh yeah, I've shot like 10 deer. I'm so cool. And he's like, oh yeah, 10 deer. That's like 3 weeks for us. But like, okay, yeah, whatever. But yeah, that was pretty funny. Our meeting, and me and Brett, we really bonded over stupid Will Ferrell movies.
Non-stop, dude. Quoting, freaking going through blackberry bushes, creating.
Oh my gosh, singing the stupidest songs.
Oh
yeah.
I still have one of them.
Yeah, I still think of one of them when I walk through blackberries.
Yeah, that was that was some awesome times, honestly. And like, what a thing. Like me, I'd never hunted on the west side either. I'd never hunted Roosevelt in my life.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I was like, all right, they're elk. You know, I mean, they are different. Don't get me wrong, but I was like, nonetheless, they're elk. I can figure this out. Like, I just, man, started listening to every podcast I could about them, and I mean, we figured it out over there. We killed some elk. We got an elk. It was a terrible year for it. It was just extremely dry. That was, and when you got 3-4 guys trudging through the forest and waist deep ferns, it's kind of hard to be quiet and play that sneak game through there when they're not calling back.
Yeah.
But
yeah, that was tough. I don't know if I told you. So Rich left a review on Google. Did I ever tell you that?
No, I did not know that.
He left a 5-star review, said Jason was an amazing guide, worked his tail off for us. And one thing that stood out about this outfit is we had people in camp who were cooking, but when they weren't cooking, they were out looking for elk for us.
Yeah. Yeah, dude, what would we have done without you? Timber, because
I'll go into that. More of a tip than I do.
So like, that's, because you were brought on to help do that kind of stuff, help in camp as well, which was, dude, after you guys left, it was hard because then that was all on us. But yeah, like he's saying, we'd been hunting a lot of the public land around there, but the main thing, we'd been waiting for certain areas to open up that were actually closed. And
the timber country.
The day that it opens up, our man Stefan here, he's out there. I didn't bring my spotter to the coast because I'm like, it is too, like, where am I going to be able to blast? Like, he comes back to us. He's like, hey, I got some bulls spotted. I was like, oh, thank you, Lord. Like, because we'd been hunting, we'd got some bulls on camera over there in the what do you call it, in the not timber, but in the public lands, in the forest.
Yeah.
But it was tough hunting, like real tough hunting.
Well, let's get a picture of how tough it was. They got there week 2 or week 3, and up to that point, you, me, and Brett had not seen a single elk when we were out hunting.
Yeah, like literally,
We were out there for like 20 days and had not seen one elk. We got
yeah,
cameras, we got trail cam footage, but
yeah.
that was
Trail
the
cam,
first elk that we saw.
trail cam footage, plenty of sign, but man, in
Yep,
that
lots of
forest
doves.
when there's no moisture, it's just, dude, it's so hard. Like you can't move through there without just sounding like a train. Like
Yeah,
breaking
yeah,
underbrush, freaking like ferns. I mean, they're so tuned on in there. That's their home. It's like if somebody came into your house and into your living room, like you're gonna know, like you're gonna hear them, like
yeah.
you're in tune to all your natural sounds around. So yeah, it was
It was
tough hunt.
tough.
But we got
But
it.
yeah,
We got Richard Bowl.
yeah. So spotted the bull, got you guys over there,
Yep.
and a mile and a half away that bull was, remember?
What was that?
It was a mile and a half away from us. Do you remember?
Yeah, dude, it was a freaking journey and a half. We went over there and we actually we they so I'm a big proponent of like calling setups
Yeah,
and like
yeah.
that. So we got lost the first time seeing that face, that clear cut where
Yeah, it
you
was
had
tough.
glassed them up. We got lost on the way over there. Ended up having to loop back. It took a lot longer than expected, but finally got in like right on the edge of that clear cut. And I could tell in there like and after that long, dude, you kind of start losing hope. You haven't seen an elk.
Yeah.
You're not hearing bugles, anything.
Hmm.
And I was like, just trust the process, dude. Like
Yeah.
at setup after setup after setup. And I personally, I like to call for 15, 30, 45 minutes, and depending on like, we know there's elk there. So you just got to get their curiosity and get them in.
Yeah.
Sometimes they have something on their agenda that they're doing and they're not going to break doing that till we were believe it was 50, 55 minutes in. Finally, that bull torches off.
Hmm.
And it was, man, that was a big spark in the in the
Yeah,
morale
and the
right there.
spirits.
Yeah. And I mean, we ended up not getting it done. We got moved to the edge of that clearing and just the winds were at where he bugled from down below us a little farther. The winds were just ripping downhill. So it's like, all right, we know there's elk over here. Our best bet, we're an hour away from dark. Let's back out of here and we'll come back first thing in the morning.
Yep.
Came back in the morning and we actually the bull was torching off on the opposite side of the creek after we had crossed. And what I believe there's that private field over there. Like there's
Hmm.
that the private property on the other side of the river right there. I
Yeah.
imagine that's kind of where they're holding up. And then
Yeah, I think so.
yeah, getting him the bull. Thank goodness for the that trucker. We had
Yeah.
we'd spent multiple days kind of going back and forth, and we'd have the truckers like loggers in that community, nicest people in the entire world.
Oh yeah.
And we had them telling us, we're seeing elk. They're like they're there every morning. Like, if you guys don't kill this elk, we're gonna hit him with our truck. He's standing in the road trying to fight our big rigs. Like he's a problem. And then that was the day before. First day we went down is when we actually saw that guy. That next day, we tried going in that same area, doing the play on that. Didn't work out, and lo and behold, here comes that trucker driving out, and he's like, "You guys end up going down there?" I was like, "We're like, no." He's like, "Man, he's there. He's right down by 7.5 mile." He's like, "You guys should probably just go check it out." And I finally talked Rich and Bob into going down there because I was like, "We're at 2 mile. That's a 5 mile
Yeah.
hike, but you're going through country, so like we'll do the cat road shuffle the whole way down. It's
Hmm.
midday. We'll kill this midday lull right now and actually go see some stuff." They don't think they were too keen on it, wanting to. It's like, we're going. Like, as I got like that, we're gonna like we know there's a bull that's down in here.
Yeah.
This private
Yeah.
field stretched all the way down to that area. Like,
Hmm.
I got an Onyx and I just measured down. It stretched down in that area. I'm like, okay, we know what these elk are doing. They're
Yeah.
feeding in this lady's pasture and they're bedding up in these hills. We might not be calling them in, but this is what they're doing. And so we hiked all the way down there, and lo and behold, right in the gravel, sprayed with markers paint, 5x5, with an arrow pointing directly in on a game.
Yeah. 5x5 right here.
Yep. We built a freaking blind, cut shooting lanes, did the whole thing, built one for Bob. that next morning, 7 a.m., we get that freaking text, bull down. I was like, oh
Yeah.
my goodness, dude, what a whirlwind of emotions. Because I mean,
Yeah.
I honestly was feeling pretty defeated at that point too. Like all I wanted to
Hmm.
do is get these guys some elk. That is it. At least let them have somewhat of an experience. I mean, I know that is the experience of elk hunting, the ups and the downs and the lulls of like how hard it is. But
Yeah.
to have that happy ending for them, man, that was just absolutely awesome.
Yeah, that was cool. And I was at school and I got the text and I was like,
That's
you guys shot my bull. I was going to be back there this weekend, but it was a different bull, so it didn't matter.
right. Hey,
But
dude, if it
that was
wasn't for
super
you,
cool.
if it wasn't for you going out there with your spotter and checking, that would have never happened. So I mean, like you played a
Yeah.
giant part in that. We would have never
Yeah,
been
that,
in
that
that
was
point.
part of it, right? I got you guys over there, but
Yep.
I mean, I was a part of it. You were obviously the guide, and then that trucker was like the
It,
unsung hero
man, that guy
of the whole
deserved a
thing.
tip, not me.
Over.
Uh,
Well, you packed it out for him, so he deserves some of the tip. You deserve some tip, though.
yeah.
All right. So, one thing I like to talk about is hobbies. We all know your hobby
Hmm.
is hunting, but you do a lot more than hunting. You go shed hunting. You like to backpack, just to backpack. You like to go fly fishing and
Hmm.
steelhead fishing. So, why don't you share with us how you got into fishing and how you're so successful at it? Because you've got some pretty cool looking YouTube videos that make me want to go fishing. And I like fishing, but it's not something that I like watch a video and I'm like, I'm going to go fishing now. But yours are pretty good. So,
I
let's talk about
appreciate it.
fishing for a bit, and then we'll get into then we'll go to sheds, and then we'll talk about our bear hunt that we're gonna do here
Yeah, no,
next
definitely.
month.
So like when it comes to like fly fishing, I'd gone when I was younger with my dad. That was kind of a thing I did with my dad. Like Thanksgiving Day was the like open. We'd go steelhead fishing. My dad was very good like fisherman, like good salmon fisherman, and we did that all growing up. And then our runs on our local river here, just like kind of all across, the whole Pacific Northwest. The runs have just gone downhill bad. Like
Yeah,
it's due to all sorts of reasons. But I mean, I man, I can't. I have really bad ADHD, and I can't sit still to do things. I have something for every time like of the season. Like there's something for me to do, whether it's archery hunting, rifle hunting, turkey hunting, like spring bear, steelhead fishing is my winter activity. Time and just recently got into the fly fishing aspect of it because I used to tie jigs, and then flies are a lot more intricate. So I started tying flies and all that. But I'd say it's been about 5 years ago, I think. No, 4 years ago. It was 4 years ago. I caught my first steelhead on the Deschutes, and I've yet to top it. It was it was a 34-inch fish. It's
oh my
probably
god,
it was it hatchery. It was 34 inches, and it was I imagine it was pushing that 16, 17 pound mark. It was an absolute tank of a fish.
yeah, I
Caught that
bet.
fish in terminal gill, terminal tackle, just regular fishing. Did that for a long time. Fished on the local river here, and I mean, it's just kind of like anything. You just figure out like where these fish lay, where they like to do it. And my thing is, most people steelhead fish over here in the spring months, like so late February, March, April, and then it usually closes mid to late April. So I'm out there in the middle of the winter when like nobody's on the river. The runs are extremely low. It's a it's a 50, 60 mile river, and I'll look online. It's there's 400 to 600 fish that have entered the river since September, and it'll be like usually November is when I start right after all the like hunting is over. And my thing is like, dude, if they're there, there's an opportunity.
Yeah,
And I've just I mean learning everything I can, watching YouTube, and just I used to run and gun with 6 poles. Like I'm a dad, so like I don't have a lot of time. Usually, if I
hmm,
do, it's like bless her heart, grandma. She's like, yeah, I can watch him for the morning for you. Can you be back by like 9, 10 o'clock? So it's like, okay, cool. I'm up at 4. I'm heading, flying down to the river, and I just hit as many spots as I can. And that's kind of where would help me learn a lot. I'd run like 5 poles, and I'd run jig on one pole, like pink worm or something, like any color, but basically, what they call them, like pink worm on another floating, and then spinner on one pole. I'd bottom bounce on another, and then the other one, I started twitch jigging like they do for salmon. I learned
yep,
Man, I mean, it can be extremely successful for steelhead as well. Like when it's extremely cold, they're very lethargic. They don't want to bite usually. So I mean, you want to get a reaction strike. So I going through all that, I just kind of started picking them apart and finding out on what parts of the river, like putting the puzzle together. Okay, in this kind of hole or this kind of run, they seem to really hit this time. So I mean, figuring that out and started tying jigs because I got tired of paying $6 a piece for them and losing them on the second or third cast. And then that led me to where I'm at pretty much now. Just got into fly fishing, and that's been a new passion. I'd say this actually first steelhead I caught on the fly was actually this year.
Mm-hmm.
And since then, I've only caught 4 on the fly rod, but I've caught a ton of trout. I actually just went out. I'll have another film dropping soon. I went out 2 weeks ago and absolutely hammered them on the fly rod. And it's cool on all my own like tied flies.
Yeah,
Like
that's it.
I tie them all up myself, take them straight to the river, and just smack them.
Just start throwing them on shore.
do pretty good success, honestly. And then once that is pretty much like once steelhead season ends, man, because like I said, that's usually over. I stop fishing once it becomes such a competitive thing on the river to get space. Like
Yeah.
I like being the guy out there. It's 10 degrees, 5 degrees. I'm out on the river while no one's out there. I have the whole thing to myself, and I could pick all these good holes apart. But once that's over and kind of everyone starts hitting the river about April-ish, when a ton of the fish flow into the river, that's when I switch to my shed hunting. So I'll sometimes head out about Marches for a couple trips to kind of feel it out, but I try to make the best of what I can do. I'm not the best shed hunter in the world. I'm not, truly, but I mean, I've found my share of them, and I found some pretty good ones. It's just same thing I do with hunting. I like to get into places where I think people aren't gonna be, because I figured that if I'm gonna find a real mature bull, that's where they're gonna want to be at. I could run and gun these roads like I have some buddies around here that do really well. I have a buddy that he finds 20 to 30, 40 sheds every year, does extremely well, but that set I found this year that I showed you, he tried trading me his entire pile from the year for them because he's been shed hunting this area since he was a teenager, and he's yet to find a bull of that stature. And obviously it's not the biggest bull in the world, but it's a stud nonetheless.
Big bull. Yeah. It's an over 306 point, right? That's pretty studly.
Out of a unit you can hunt every year.
Yeah,
just
exactly.
just
So,
just a giant wilderness area. And I mean, I've got about 12 cameras. I used to run them all in that wilderness. That's where I used to do all my hunting. And man, there's a lot of non-typical and a lot of really cool bulls in that country. It's just so thick that, dude, they just go unscathed. It's thick, it's steep, it's nasty in there. And I mean, there's a good amount of people that hunt it, but most of them run the trails and run the roads.
yeah. Yeah, they don't dive off the trail system too far.
Yep.
Well, that brings us into bear hunting.
Yep.
So I'm going to tee this one off and then I'll let you knock it out of the park. So Jason posted a video on Instagram, and every once in a while I like to comment on his videos just to like let him know, hey, I see you. I'll tease him a little bit.
Yeah.
We'll kind of go back and forth. So like I had a daughter, and then he had a daughter like 6 months later. I'm like, oh, interesting. Like now that I did it, I guess it's cool. So just things like that. Jason posted a video that he's checking his rifle for fall bear, which is opening in 2 weeks. And I said, oh, I want to go with you. And he goes, you want to go shooting with me in Eastern Oregon? I was like, oh, I'll do that too. But yeah, I'm going to go bear hunting with you. Don't do that to anybody. We're buddies. We spent 3 weeks in hunting camp together. We were up at 3:30, 4 in the morning, bed almost at midnight sometimes. We've been through the thick of it. We've
washing our clothes in the freaking creek.
taking creek baths. I almost cut my thumb off. Remember?
We
You
all
had to
ended
tie
up in
my
the
shoes
ER in
for
the
me.
same week. Me,
That's
you,
right.
and Brett all went to the ER in the same week. What a week.
You were there, and then I was there the next day. And then they were like, oh, these outfitters really, what are you guys getting into over there?
Right? Like, what is going on with this outfit?
Yeah.
Uh,
So Anyways, been through a lot. Like you've stayed at my place a couple
Yeah.
times, and so for me to say that, like we're buddies.
Oh yeah.
So I'm like, no, I'm gonna come bear hunting with you. And then I was just pushing you, and then you're like, then you text me like, hey, if you're second shooter, you want to go? And I was like, I'll go if I'm no shooter. I just want to go.
Hmm.
So anyways, we're gonna go. I told Bridget I'll get her to be okay with it.
Most definitely.
Yeah.
Heck yeah. Well, I mean,
Take her to a
I
nice dinner.
there you go, dude. Work it for you. Get those
Yeah.
bounty points for you. Well, I mean, I do a lot. One, I do a lot by myself because as a parent, you realize like a lot of your time that you used to be for yourself then is I mean, it's not about you so much anymore.
Oh yeah.
So I mean, times where I can actually get out, and especially having two kids now, like it's I mean, call me selfish, but it's like I really just kind of want to do what I want to do, and it's like if I'm gonna tag out, like I got one weekend maybe for fall bear. Hopefully, if I can get two, that'll be sweet. But like I, but I was it's like man, me and you've been trying to plan something for the last like 2 years.
Yeah.
Like, what better time for doing this than like let's get out into some country that I mean I know you've never been out there before, but I know you're coming to archery hunt it this year, so it's like perfect. We can get out there, you can kind of get a lay of it, and we'll hopefully go put the smackdown on some bears. It's a target rich environment, but I think we have a very good possibility of tagging out on a couple bears out there. It's there's a lot of bears in that Cascade range.
I'm not surprised looking at it. It looks like a good place for bears because it's steep. There's enough open stuff where you can see them,
Hmm.
but I also know that open stuff where the trees have been logged.
Hmm.
I've learned this, and this will be a hot tip for everybody. So this next point, I'll make it, and then I'll go back to years of my story together. So when the trees are logged, because it's so thick, now this underbrush can grow. But and from the Cascades further to the west, all the way to the ocean, once you get that clear ground, it's like vine maples and blackberries are just blossoming like crazy. So
Yep.
you get these clear cuts and you look at it on a map, you're like, oh, that's gorgeous. You got this beautiful green grass. It's like 500 acres. No, it's blackberries. It's 500
Yeah.
acres of the nastiest blackberries you've ever trying to go through. The
Yep.
vines are like thicker than your fingers. Like going through with a machete, you're getting sliced up, slicing through the vines with a machete. Like it's awful.
Well,
But
dude,
bears love
like like where we went through, it was literally we were 7, 8 feet off the ground, but
it.
walking
Yeah.
on top of blackberry and vine maple just interweaved, trying to get through.
Yeah.
I'd look back, you'd bust through and like fall, and like, I'm good. Pull yourself up. It
Yeah,
was
that was
it's just a mess. But
yeah, that was
that's
rough. And that was one thing that we learned is Jason and I were looking at Onyx and we're like, oh sweet, this is a clear cut, which is logged country. There's grass there. And I'm like, dude, no, 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 no. When it's that color green, they just planted. So it's gonna be blackberries and then it's gonna be reprod. And I
yep.
was like, you watch. And sure enough, when we went there,
Oh, it's like
it was blackberries and reprod.
dude, we'll be good. I was like, it'll be perfect. We'll cut straight through. We'll cut like instead of having to hike all the way around, dude. We'll cut 20 minutes off this hike. No, we
Oh,
add a
easy.
half hour plus.
Yeah,
Oh,
it was cool though because once we got to the bottom, we found really good trails that were just not
yeah.
being used right then. But yeah, so that's why I think that place looks like it's good for bears. So that'll be cool. But again, I invited myself.
Dude,
We're buddies. We've been trying to go shed hunting for 2 years. I had a kid, and then Jason's girl was pregnant. So like all these issues, all these things coming up. I have
yep.
schoolwork that I can't leave from. So we've been trying for years. We actually need to get you to my dad's place in Montana. Did I tell you about that?
I I don't think so.
Okay, I'll give you the brief rundown because people on the podcast have heard a bit from my podcast with my brother. So, long story short, my dad has 92 acres and all four sides are surrounded by national forest. It's primo. It's absolutely amazing. And the elk move through the property. Super cool.
Nice.
So, he's at the bottom of this mountain. He's on the north side at the bottom. Well, down from him, 3/4 of a mile, there's kind of some open ag fields and there's a river or a creek. So like these elk just move through his property all the time. And opening day, we got my dad one. Opening day of archery, we got him one with his bow, 17 yards. I gave him an iron will single bevel. He just like screwed it on. I made him do one practice shot with a practice iron will I had. He's like, yeah, that's pretty good, dude. 17 yards. It was a cow because you can shoot any elk.
Yeah.
17 yards, quartered away, liver, lung, center punches a rib. It ran like 80 yards and was done.
Nice.
I'm like, that's cool. So then the next day, I called in a cow and a calf. It was like a yearling, so a cow and a yearling. And the yearling stepped out first, and I told Bridget, because I was like, we had a 2-month-old baby. We're in this
Yep.
off-grid cabin, no power, no water. You have to run the generator or go get water from the mountainside. So I'm like, honey, first elk that's legal that steps in front of me, I'm going to send it. She was like, okay, you better. That's the first one that stepped in front of me. So I sent it. So 30 yards, quarter two. Got it was a male, but it was like the size of a big deer, like 170 pounds
Hey,
maybe.
dude, that's meat in the freezer. Like
It
that's,
was
I mean,
so tasty. That's the
yeah.
best
Oh
elk
yeah.
I've ever had.
Oh yeah.
It was delicious. So that was pretty legit. And then the next day, so this is day 3 of season, my dad has they call it a food plot. There's nothing planted on it, but it's just this big clearing because it's pretty thick timber, like what you're talking about in like the wilderness areas, like the Eagle Cap stuff. Super thick, super steep, but they had this nice cleared area. And my brother's like, okay, I've seen you guys do it. He's never been successful big game hunting before. He's like, okay, now it's my turn. I'm like, do you realize how hard it is to get an elk? We just got 2. Like, you think you're just going to get one? I was 40, 50 yards downhill from him. He was right by the tree line where they're going to come down, right to enter that to then feed through the property. I laid on my back and I did the Jason playbook. I started out doing some cow calls. Then I did some raking with the elk scapula. Remember the elk scapula I found with you?
Yeah.
I still have
Perfect
it.
for raking, dude.
I was laying on my back trying to sleep, and every few minutes I'd like rake, do some cow calls, and then I ripped a bugle the loud as I could, and I'm laying down. So this bull comes to the tree line, and it walks across the tree line, and then it beelines right at me. I'm laying in this group of like 3-foot tall pines. There's like, I don't know, 10 or 12 of them. I'm laying down on my back, and then I kind of hear it, so I kind of get up. I'm on my knees, kind of a half crouch thing. This bull steps 8 yards away from me. It's standing, staring me in the face, drooling. And my brother was uphill from me, and he was able to draw at some point, probably because it was staring at me, and he shot it. So I'm like, I'm pretty legit, man. I just called this bull into 8 yards. Like, if that was me, I would have shot it frontal.
Heck
Well,
yeah.
it whirls around, and I saw the arrow hit it, and I could hear it because it's 8 yards away, right? So it wheels around, and I'm just ripping cow calls. I'm sure they sounded like garbage, right? And it stops. So I'm like, I think that's 60 yards. So I knock an arrow, I draw. All I can see is forward of the front shoulder, so I can just see its whole neck and its head, and it's facing me broadside. So I'm like, 60 yards, center of the neck, send it. Well, later I found it was 69 yards, and I was able to take out some important pumps and pipes in the neck area. And anyways, we got him down.
Dude, that's all that
Oh
matters.
yeah, 3 elk in 3 days. It was pretty legit.
Heck yeah, dude, that's freaking sweet. That's a
Yeah,
better
and
season
it
than
took
I
that
had.
thing probably almost an hour to come in. So like
Dude,
you were saying earlier, it took forever, but I just did the Jason playbook. I'd ramp up,
dude, some,
quiet down, and it worked.
yep. It's, I mean, just sound like a party elk, man. That's like, and a lot of it is, you know, it's not just making the call. Like elk
Yeah.
sounds are much more than that. It's like you know, like you break branches, kick stumps, do those kind of things, make ambient noises. It's like, I mean, it's, and they don't. It's not like they're always going to come in calling like that's
Yeah.
not always. But
Humans.
I mean, they like every bull I called in this last fall. That's, I mean, that's how it was. They came in silent on me. But I mean, they're interested. They know something's going on. I mean, if they're fired up and they got cows, like, or it's a bull that's really hot trying to like come in and steal your cows, like, yeah, it's, they might come in running. But like bull I called in first bull of the season, opening morning, I hiked like 7 miles into the Equal Caps and woke up that first morning, glass in, just kind of checking out. Oh, I'm like, oh, there's some mountain goats. That's pretty cool over here. And I look over and I glass on this ridge, and I see it's not a big bull. He's a raghorn. He's like 4x4, 5x5, something in that area. Not too big, but he's. I mean, I'm taking the first legal bull I possibly can. I glass
That's
him on
right.
this super steep face over across from me, and I'm sat there. I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna watch him for a little bit. And then I'm thinking, I'm like, okay, I could maybe work around, and then if I could, I could literally shoot straight down off a cliff onto him, depending on what he does.
Yeah.
And as I'm like getting my gear, I'm stashing my pack away. I'm like, I'm gonna go fast and light and run over there. He moves off and goes down into the timber. I'm like, okay. He at this point he's probably 500-600 yards away from me. But I'm like, okay, I'm at this point. By the time I get over there, like I don't know where he's at. I can see it's cliffed out, so there's nowhere I can get down. I hop on Onyx, I look, I'm like, there's one giant timber patch on that north slope right there. Like I'm betting he's gonna bed in there because at this point it's like 9 a.m. So I work off down through the meadow, work off the top down into the meadow. I do this giant loop around, get everything right, get into that timber patch, and I get in there and I start super steep face and I start doing some calling and I'm working through there and I'm having no luck, nothing. And the whole way side hill, and I had something in my boot that was really kind of just like annoying the hell out of me. And I'm working through. I'm like, okay, like he must have moved down through here if he's not coming in. I probably missed him. He probably just moved all the way through the bottom and off, and I just I could never see him. So I sit down, take my boot off, get my sock off, add a little piece of a stick in there that it was just rubbing me raw. Got that off, put some Leuco tape on it because it was just rubbing pretty bad. Leuco tape. Got my sock back on, and I was sitting there, and all of a sudden I just hear off to my right, about I don't know, it's probably 15 yards. And by the time I turned to look, he was already turned, busting off through the trees, going the other
Yeah.
way. Dude came in silent, and it's had that happen. That was basically the end of my trip. Then I got completely rained out. I had a lot of weather that moved. It's like I got my butt kicked. I'm just gonna hike out early at this point. Maybe I'll hunt the way out. And it's like 6 miles. But yeah, and then the rest of the trip I went out for a whole week the end of season and called two bulls in that came in silent, and the first one came in behind me, no luck, and the second one it just same thing, man. Hunting solo archery is pretty hard. Like
Yeah.
it's yeah. And then I shot a buck, hit a stick, and I clipped his brisket, and that's about as good as my season was. Nothing to show for it, but it was a good adventure.
Yeah, and you learned a ton. So what you just described, it's a video on YouTube, right? I think I watched that.
Yeah, actually, so that first week out, I made a video out of that one where I clipped that buck, early
Yeah.
season archery deer and elk. And I mean, I wish my GoPro had died sadly throughout the whole. I was stalking through some meadows and some wallows, and it died by that point. But yeah, he's a good buck. I mean, not absolute giant, but he's probably in that 140, 150 range, out past his ears.
Yeah, that's a
When
good deal.
I made the shot on him, like clipped that branch and it just went down and hit. Man, I didn't even see his running partner. He was with another buck. He was a bit bigger than him. So I mean, there's some good deer in that country. It's just so vast, man. Yeah.
Yeah, it's big country. All right, so now I want to talk about how we're gonna hunt these fall bears. We can do that like
Yeah,
five
definitely.
or so minutes, and then I want to hear how you're preparing for it, exercise wise.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna preface the exercise part with everybody. Jason's pretty studly. There aren't many people that can beat me in the mountain that I know of. Jason's one of those people. It helps that
I
his
also do.
legs are
I'm lucky.
5 inches longer than mine.
I was gonna say I'm all legs, so that's one advantage I got.
Yeah, so that
Yeah.
does help. Don't get me wrong. But I know that you do some training. So how are we going to hunt these bears? I know we're packing in. What are we packing in? I think I looked. It's like 3 or 4 miles. It's not that far.
So I got two. I'm still debating on how we're gonna want to do this because I got two basins that I'm looking at another one now. I'll send you the pin to this one
Yeah.
because the basin we're looking at, I did like the area like size
Yep.
on Onyx.
Yeah.
And that first basin I sent you, it's 800 acres
Okay.
basically of hunting, but the other basin I'm looking at, it's like 2,000 to like 2,500 acres. got multiple creeks in it that come and actually meet. So I mean, we might be doing that one. They're all in the same burn. They're not far from each other. But if you're driving down this way, they connect. So they both run up drainages and they have something that connect across the top. Debatably, we might hike up one, work all the way across, and then back down the other drainage. Kind of depends on what.
2 trucks. Yeah.
So we can
I
have
think that's a
cover
great
country.
idea. So are we going to be glassing? Are we going to be trying to still hunt through some berry patches? What are you thinking?
So, I mean, on the way in, that's kind of like the way in through the burn. You come up through we'll end up still hunting through the timber and the huckleberries. That'll kind of be in there, but we'll be in a bit early. So those ones might not be as ripe as the berries that'll be down in the bottoms of the creek. So the reason we're hunting in areas we're hunting is, I mean, there's a ton of huckleberries. There's a ton of, I think, called mountain ash berries, and then another one I can't think of the name of right off top. There's a lot of food sources in there. In the fall this time of year, it's super hot and they got big, thick coats, but those bears, like, all they're worried about is eating berries. And I mean, they'll be out there midday just mowing berries. But first day, we'll still hunt up through that timber and kind of just, I read a lot of All Trail stuff, the app All Trails. Those hippie hikers love posting all their pictures and all their encounters with bears and letting you know where the berries are. So I've done all my intel on those and on the other different Portland hiking websites. I mean, Portland hiker sites and stuff, and reading everything I can, and plenty of bear sightings, plenty of berries. But once we get in there, the main thing is going to be just glassing. Sitting glassing over these big burns. There's big burns with timber edges and stuff. So, I mean, we're first thing, hope a lot of it might be first light, catching those bears, working through those burns, seeing what we can pick up. And I think we're definitely gonna get into them. I'm just hoping the timing is right. I have not had time to get up there and scout any of that. So, I mean, I don't really know how the berries are looking, but from the way the time frame has been and with how hot it's getting right now, I think that is going to be right on par. Because what they usually say is, like, the rule of thumb is 60 days after sun to soil is usually, at 60 days, about 2 months after, is when your berries are going to be starting. So, what the good thing about where we're hunting at in both drainages is the bottom of the drainage starts right at about 3,500 feet. And those drainages go all the way up to about 6,000 feet. So we have that whole frame in between there. If we find the bears, they're going to be at that certain elevation band wherever your best ripeness is going to be. So I think we'll be able to work through there, hunt those burns. And if not any of that, they're not in there, we for some reason can't find them, calling will be an option one for us. And also working through, we'll get up top and work through there's a lot of meadows and certain things like that. I don't know if some of those later bears that actually den up really, really high, they're kind of still on a different time frame of schedule of bears that will come out of hibernation in the lower elevations.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they might still be out eating tons of grasses and tons of flowers. There's a bunch of flowers up there. I think we got some pretty good options on getting on some bears up there.
Yeah, I think it'd be cool, and we're definitely going to try between the two of us, try to get some footage. I have my phone scope. With my new phone, it still fits, and you've got a pretty good phone camera.
Yeah, I got
don't you? A GoPro.
Well, so I got my phone does phenomenal actually, but I also have I got a DSLR.
Oh, sweet.
I got a DSLR, and I have a new sound mixer that I just ordered today. It'll be here Wednesday. So I mean, we'll be running. I got this, and I also got a larger 400 millimeter lens that fits on there, so for some other shots. But I mean, and then I have another camera I'll probably put with you because I'll have that one. That's my Nikon. I mean, it ain't anything super special, but it records good video. And then I also have a Sony A5000 that's a DSLR. My Sony A5000 is mirrorless. It doesn't allow for an external mic, but it actually records decent audio. Like did you watch my archery hunt from last year? One where that shot that was recorded on that A5000. So I mean,
it was pretty good.
a little bit of editing in an audio editing app, man, and it turns out pretty great. Is it like superb quality? No, but that's we'll get mainly with that camera, my Nikon there. Get some of the best with that, and then for any of the super long distance stuff, we'll be running phone scope, all in mag view, whatever adapters. I'm running phone scope right now. I think you were talking about getting that mag view.
Yeah, should I do it?
Man, they're pretty sweet. They're
Okay,
nice.
I'll
Yeah,
just get it.
they're pretty awesome. Like I will
I'll
say, I
just
mean,
get it. I'll just pull the trigger.
I just I like my phone scope. It works perfectly fine. Like I get until it stops. Then like once it's like if I upgrade to something different and I don't have all of it, it's like I'm not going to fix what's not broken at this point. You know?
Yeah, that's fair. No, I'll just get it. That way one of us we have a few different things we can test out.
Yep. So I mean, we'll be able to get pretty much all of that. And
We'll
luckily,
see.
my rifle, it's the scope on it. It's not. I don't do any adjusting, any of that kind of. I don't use a turret, any of that. I run all hash marks,
Oh yeah, the
and
BDC.
yeah, it'll it, it's it'll be really simple for us to use, so nothing gets touched, none of that. I like kind of simple. I mean, I can shoot 600-700, but we're going to be trying to get like that's not our main goal as hunters.
Yeah,
You know, we should be able to get closer and
yeah.
make a stock and get a more ethical shot. Plus, dude, getting closer is a lot more fun. I mean,
Way more fun.
like so I think like it'll be like I'm hoping we can actually moving through that timber. Like when we pack in for this fall, we'll be going in for. I am going to probably take Friday off, so I mean it'll probably be in there. Get in there Thursday night, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I don't know if you'll be able to. If not, I can still. I mean, it's a quick drive back down to town. Luckily, I can get in there and kind of scout and see what one area looks like, possibly. And if not, then we can move to another whatever. But moving through that timber, if you're bringing your bow, I'm really hoping we could find a bear on berries by trail. Like that would be ideal, and
Yeah, that'd be sweet.
get something close on like on film. That would be pretty freaking awesome.
Yeah, that'd be slick. So let's end this with how we're training for it. So I'm gonna sound like a total jerk. I'm not really training much for this. I run a mile
Man,
and a half a day. I lift weights twice a week. I shoot my bow 5 to 7 days a week. I'm 27 years old. I naturally have a high VO2. I am in pretty good shape. I've never really been injured, and I'm strong enough to carry a 50 to 70 pound pack pretty far.
yeah.
I'm not
See,
really training for it.
that's the one thing that made me.
Where are you at?
That's the one thing that made me like feel like okay, like asking you is like I know it won't be an issue for you. Whereas like I know you've never really done backpack hunting, but dude, we were spiked out for 3 weeks during archery. Like whether we drove to a camp or not, I mean, you were sleeping
Yeah,
in a hammock every single night. You're okay
yeah.
with like, hey, we're not going to be showering. We're going to be sweaty. We're going to be like
Oh yeah.
it's. And I know you get around the mountains freaking awesome. Like you like same thing. You were one of the few people. It's like I don't have to like stop and turn and wait. 2 minutes for you to kind of catch up and then catch the breath. Like it's not like that.
What,
I know you're going to be
what
able
was
to.
our saying? Do you remember our saying?
What?
You and me
I
would
don't
look at each
actually. I don't
other,
think.
and we had two of them. One of them was a 5 minute adventure, and then it'd be like an hour and a half later.
Yeah.
And then the other one was what was it? We were like diving in holes or something. The stupidest thing we could
So
think
what
of.
was it? Big bowls, deep hole. No, what is it?
Yeah, that is what it was. Yeah,
Was it big bowls, deep holes? It's like something like that.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And
Because
we got in a whole
that's
bunch of
all we
deep
did.
holes. Yeah. So, anyways, that's how I'm training. Are you doing much
I
training for this?
so I mean I've sadly, dude, I'm one of those guys. I'm terrible about going to the doctor. I last year I do a lot. I like running. I enjoy running. I kind of got into it because it was one of those things like I hated running for the longest time,
Yeah.
and it's like read the old Goggins book, both of them, and it's like all right, if you want to get good at like do something you don't like doing, like that. So it's like I started running. So I was also it's great for you. Ran a couple ultras. It's a couple 50Ks, mountain 50Ks, and last year training for one. I'm also terrible about stretching, so I ended up basically doing something to my upper hamstring, And what
Mm-hmm.
I'm seeing, so like I was been fighting what is believed to be high hamstring tendinopathy. According,
Mm-hmm.
I have my friend's his girlfriend is a physical therapist, and from everything she's like that's what it sounds like. But I mean, I tried babying it for the longest time, man. Just like 6, 8 months doing that, stretching, rolling it out, and then it's like finally within the last 3, 4 months, I actually started like working it out instead of
Yeah.
doing the baby technique. Actually, just working it out, doing
Mm-hmm.
RDLs, all those kind of things, like a
Yep.
lot of step ups, a lot of different variations of like exercises for it, and I've seen a world of difference. I mean, I wouldn't say it's 100% to where I'd want it to be, but I have no issue. Like, it's not going to be an issue on the hunt, anything like that. I've been, I run, usually when I go on runs, they're about 4 to 6 miles. I go on 4 to 6 mile run a couple times a week. I hit the gym a couple times a week, like a day. In days that I do go to the gym, now it's been warmer, it'll be, I live a mile and a half from the gym here.
Mm-hmm.
I run to the gym and work out and run back while I'm there. I mean, I don't. One thing I stopped doing, I used to lift heavy, a lot of like
Mm-hmm.
lift heavy, do all that kind of stuff, and I've now just been trying to lift smarter, not harder,
Yeah.
and less weights, more reps, slower reps, really
Mm-hmm.
focusing on that kind of stuff. And I mean, I'm not in the best shape I've ever been in, but I know like it's this hunt of all things is not going to be. I'm definitely ready for it. Oh, we'll be good, man.
Yeah. I'm not too worried about it. And the bears in Oregon aren't huge,
Yeah.
so I'm not worried. We can make 2 trips if we need to. I'm not worried about it.
Well, that's it. And so I haven't mentioned it. We might have an extra going on the trip. I'm not sure. I briefly got to talk to him yesterday. That's so my girlfriend's brother. He's been he's been wanting to get into hunting.
Yeah, cool.
He lives in northern Washington, up by Bellingham,
Mm-hmm.
and I mean, big outdoorsy guy, super athletic. He's a professional snowboarder. So I mean,
Oh, sweet.
they hike up the mountains all winter long and do backcountry snowboarding and that kind of stuff. He's in great shape. He just ran a marathon, his first marathon, and so I mean, but he's been wanting to get into hunting, and he's like, I just never had an outlet, never knew who to ask. Now that since you and my sister have been together, like I figured, like man, that this would be an awesome outlet to try and get into hunting. And I broke it to him. I was like, hey, me and a good buddy are gonna go backpack into Mount Hood this fall. Like, if you're serious, because he moved out back down for the summer, and so he's like, hey, I was like, if you're serious, man, like, feel free to come tag along. I was like, we could use the person to help packing. That would be awesome
Yeah.
if we get a couple bears, like that'll be sweet. I was
Yeah.
like, and I mean, it'll give us some good time too to actually kind of hang out, and
For
I can
sure.
teach him a little bit about hunting, and it looks, man, hunting always looks fantastic on paper to a lot of people.
Yeah.
And then it's like, I mean, there's a lot more like, how do you feel? Like, it's like, how do you feel about maybe sitting in a spot for 6 hours in the August heat, just
Yeah.
sitting behind glass, man? I mean, it can be, I mean, but it's like the lull of it to the lowest of lows and the highest of highs. That's hunting, man. Like,
Yeah.
absolutely. It can go
For
from
sure.
absolutely nothing going on. It's hot, it's miserable. And it's like, one of us would be like, bear, I got a bear. And it's like,
Yep.
dude,
And then
adrenaline starts spiking. And
yeah. Oh yeah, I'm with
I,
you.
I think his sister, my girlfriend, she's gotten into hunting 2 years ago. And I mean, she's fallen in love with it. And he's seen that. And then, like, dude, providing your own meat, especially with the way things have been lately with, the way things have been going in our country, sadly. He's like, I really like to get my own meat and do that kind of stuff to fill my freezer. So I think he might be. We'll see how serious he is about it. I'm not gonna tug on him too hard to get him to go. If he wants to, he will.
Yeah.
I'm that
Oh
kind of guy.
yeah.
Like, if you want to do it, you're gonna do it. And
Yeah. Well,
we've
that's
been
cool.
talking long enough. I figured, I was like, I need to just ask Stefan finally, and I
I
figured this
know.
would be a perfect hunt.
Yeah, it'll be fun. Well, cool. Thanks for jumping on. I don't want to take up the rest of your night. I know you've got things to do. I need to eat. I don't know about you, but I'm getting pretty hungry. So,
I got to
um,
prep for the week. I haven't meal prepped this week, so I got
I've
back
got
late
some meal
last
prep
night.
recipes I need to send you. Actually, well, we could
Dude,
talk about that later.
would love that, man. Would love that.
Yeah, I've got some good ones. So what we'll do is if I get on a scouting trip, maybe we'll do a podcast. It could be like 10, 20 minutes, and we can just discuss what I found so people can learn from what we're discussing. And then
Yeah,
if we get to go on this bear hunt, I should be able to convince Bridget, I'm pretty sure. We'll have to do like a debrief if we're successful or not. And
we could
just
even do it. We can midway through if it's not. We could do an on the mountain one, dude. That'd be cool too.
that would be so ridiculous
Yeah,
because we get so carried away
yeah.
on things. But
A
yeah.
late night after action report, kind of
Oh,
doing a little.
yeah.
That'd be cool. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, definitely. We'll have to get stuff like that going. Appreciate it though.
Of
And
course, Matt. Thanks for having me on. This has been
anything else
awesome.
you want to say? Why don't you tell everybody your Instagram so that way they can follow you and check out your YouTube channel, and then we'll
Okay.
jump off here.
YouTube channel is Your Mom's Favorite Outdoorsman. Just Your Mom's Favorite Outdoorsman. Space between all of them. Actual Your Your. Instagram is Backcountry Bear Jew. It used to be Your Mom's Favorite Outdoorsman, but I got locked out of that at like 10,000 something followers and been trying to rebuild.
We're working on it.
Yep.
Well, sweet. Yeah, thanks again, Jason. And we'll get you on here pretty soon.
All right. Sounds good, Steph. Good talking to you, brother. Have a good night, man.